What's up, breathing people? I'm JC.
I'm Brittany.
And you're listening to
Just Breathing Home Edition.
Yes, you are. You're back with Just Breathing Home Edition. Welcome to our dining room / soon to be schoolhouse / podcast studio.
Yep.
It's a versatile place. It's amazing. Amazing. So we are going back into the school year, another homeschooling year for 2 kids now.
For 2 kids.
How do you feel about that?
It's a little scary, but really exciting mostly.
What excites you most?
Just that learning actually is fun. And I think it's going to be fun to enjoy that with them and to be able to teach them that and just to kind of learn together. I think it's fun, especially because even though they're so young and I should probably know everything already, I don't. When we're reading history and I'm like, this is so cool. So we're learning stuff together. And
we went to public school.
Yeah, I went to public school.
So
but it's really good curriculum. And I also like the language arts. And so I'm kind of excited for that because they both of our kids who are going into kindergarten and first grade can read already. Right. So it's going to be fun for them to kind of feel free to that they already know a lot, but then to learn a little bit more, I think is going to be fun.
Yeah. And I think having the 2 is going to be a different dynamic.
Yeah.
And I think forcing our oldest to do school alone.
Yeah. While the 2 others played.
That was hard.
Yeah.
That was hard. But now that he has his sister doing the same stuff he did, and he'll be able to help her.
Right.
And kind of be like, I already know this stuff.
Right.
I think it's going to be a little nicer. Of the school year.
It's definitely going to be nicer because it is going to be kind of like a little classroom where I'm teaching 2 and they can interact and they can have fun together.
Right.
And also our youngest, who's just starting for her first year, she's really excited.
Right.
She's like
our middle child, not our youngest.
The youngest that's starting school. That's what I meant. But she's really excited to learn and she follows instructions well. And so I'm excited.
Well, and that's another dynamic that's really cool about homeschooling is she got to watch her brother do school. And even last year, she was kind of there. Mm-hmm. You know, when he would learn something, she would kind of be hanging around and kind of seeing what he was learning. Because why is Brahm learning something and knowing something that I didn't know?
Yeah.
You know, I don't want that.
She was always upset that she couldn't, she wanted to do his workbooks.
Right.
And I always was it's not that I was discouraging her from learning, but I was like, these are his. He has to do them. You can't do them for him. Yeah. And so that's going to be cool when she has her own workbooks. I think she's going to be really excited about that. Yeah. And she was excited when I gave her little school box with her own scissors and glue stick and tape and pencils and ruler and all that. She was really excited. So
yeah, she's going to be super into it.
And
she's so good at learning too.
She is.
She's a blonde for sure.
But she takes in information.
Many areas of her life. But when it comes to information, she's Legally Blonde. I've never seen that movie, but isn't that the concept of that? You have this kind of dumb blonde, but you have her going to law school, right?
That might be it. I never saw it either.
Okay. I don't know. I could have just butchered that because I've never seen the movie, but I think that's what the premise is. Right. And that's our daughter.
Right.
She is so blonde in so many areas of her life.
It's very true.
But when it comes to information, when it comes to retaining things, we'll watch shows or movies or read books and she'll bring up tidbits of that information. And you're like, I didn't even know you were paying attention.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's sitting over there
right.
You don't know what's going on in her mind. But then when it comes time or a reference is applicable, she's like, oh, that's in this book. Yeah. Or, oh, that's in this show.
Right. Or she'll be like, that reminds me of this. And you're like, Oh wow! It really does. It is similar, and like you would not have made that connection.
Well, and that's a whole nother thing. I mean, there's retaining information, and then there's, I guess that would be almost like comprehension.
Yeah,
kind of like reading comprehension, but just life comprehension. So like she's understanding that this, is similar to this,
and able to take things out of their like concrete context and apply it to something else. Is really
that's really
good. Yeah,
really good. And like, I see her do stuff like that, and I'm like, oh, she's gonna be good.
She's gonna be
good in school. I'm not good in school. Yeah.
I think the other thing that excites me is that like, and I've been thinking on this, is like for our oldest, we're gonna be starting to teach him like health and music and things like that. And it's just kind of cool that we're gonna be able to gift him with talents that like he is going to be so thankful for. And also that like from both of us, because like I'm only helpful in like so much, but you're gifted in like music and like knowing
just a different set of skills.
You can play the piano, you can play all these different instruments, you understand how to read notes and how to play them, whereas I don't know how to do that. But like he's gonna benefit from your skill,
and you're gonna learn through it.
I'm gonna learn through it.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of cool that like I'm gonna be able to give him the best of the best. Yeah. In homeschooling. So that's cool to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be nice to see that progression too. That's one of the things that I really love about homeschooling. And we keep harping on homeschooling because it's the best.
It's pretty awesome.
You have control of what is going into your child. The information that's being given to your child, because you, especially in the early stages, when they're in the developmental stages, are reading to them.
Yeah.
Or you're with them as they read because they're still learning. So like a lot of core information, like about history, they're not going to get later in life when they read the 1619 Project in the New York Times.
Yeah.
Which is, just spoiler alert, it's already been debunked.
Yeah.
Like 12 historians have already written how the 1619 Project, not to get political right now, but like has been debunked as a false history.
Right.
Even though it was promulgated and spread around schools and taught there, which doesn't make any sense after it's been debunked as historically accurate.
Yeah.
We're going to make sure that our kid understands the full nature of history, good, bad, and ugly.
Right.
But from a proper historical context.
Right. And you can do that in homeschooling. Like in public school, I remember you just get one point of view, which sometimes it is like a good point of view, and sometimes it's not, but how would you know?
Yeah. Well, and so many people, when they make the arguments about history and try to politicize it, will be like, oh, well, the victors wrote the history books. And they're not wrong. We know a lot about the Roman conquests in, let's say, in what was, I forget what it was called back then, but in Britain, through the letters of Julius Caesar, and his writings of the Gauls and his writings of the Gothic people and all that type of stuff. Like all we know is from the writings of Julius Caesar.
Yeah,
we don't know anything from the side of the Brits. So that is 100% true. Also, what can happen is the people teaching it can also be influencing the history.
Right.
And if they have an agenda, you're also not getting an accurate history. So yes, it's written by the victors, and we need to be careful of that and make sure we're pulling in perspectives from those that weren't there for the history. Like we should be learning about Native Americans and their plight and really digging into how they felt being colonized. We should definitely look into all of that stuff and research and understand, but also be aware of who's teaching us.
Yeah.
Because they're bringing in their philosophies and their ideologies and their points of view.
Right.
So history is always a point of view.
Right.
But we get to, as the parent, make sure and regulate what that point of view is.
And help them to develop critical thinking.
Right.
And be able to figure out things for themselves. And especially at that young age, that's really important because...
Well, let me just say, too, just to real quick, and I'm sorry to butt in, but it helped them to think critically.
Yes.
Not critical thinking, because critical thinking is a huge problem right now.
Wait, can you explain the difference between that? Because to me, I'm like...
So critical thinking is an ideology that informs your thought process. But thinking critically is just the process of how you think.
Okay.
And so there's a difference.
So like critical thinking is like a way of...
how you think.
Oh. So it's outside of you.
Right. Well, it's outside of you...
telling you what to do.
Telling you how to think about things.
Okay. Whereas thinking critically is when you're in control and you're thinking through, what do I think about this? Is this right or wrong? Right. Or how should I feel about this? Yeah. So I want them to learn how to think critically because especially when you're young, and of course you're as you grow, you'll figure this out too. But when you're young, you try to make sense of things like right away.
Yeah.
And so, I want them to learn like at an early age that there are different points of view. And I think you can start to teach that early on in history.
Yeah.
And I love how our curriculum does it because they actually have certain books that are like this versus this. And so they tell the history, but from both sides. So you're not just getting like, because the kids want to know like who's right, who was right here. Yeah. And it's kind of hard because you can't just say like, well, this side was right. You can say, well, I kind of lean in the favor of this side, but like they did do this wrong to them and they did this wrong to them. And, that's how it was. It just kind of stunk, but this was the end result, and helping them think through that and understand that, I think is a really important skill to have in life.
And understanding that history is messy.
Yeah.
If I can instill one thing when it comes to history in my kids is that it's messy.
Yeah.
It always has been. It was extremely messy earlier than today.
Right.
And it will be extremely messy. I mean, I'm not going to get into it in this podcast, but like what's happening in Afghanistan. It's messy. It's really messy. I'm not putting one statement, to that over another, like I'm just saying it's messy.
Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah.
And it will always be that way.
Yeah.
Because you're dealing with people and people are messy.
Yep.
We're flawed.
Right.
And things are not going to go perfectly. And people trying to change that just don't understand human nature.
Yeah.
And I just want them to have that perspective in history especially.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the most important subject right now. Really understanding history, how we got here, why we made the decisions we did, and what was good and bad about those decisions.
Right.
I love that they allow you to look at those different perspectives because we don't have that ability right now to look at different perspectives. Like, for example, I don't want to talk about Afghanistan tonight. I want to keep talking about schooling and things like that. But like, for example, I've learned a lot over the past week in regards to Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Because I desire to learn.
Yeah.
Because I desire to understand.
Right.
And it's so different than having an opinion.
Yeah.
Like we should all be learners, not opinionizers.
Yeah.
And it's a struggle because social media, especially, like if you have a following, if you're an influencer or a public figure or something like that, you're kind of expected to sort of take a stand on every issue, especially the major issues that arise. And most have. And they're informative, a lot of them, but sometimes people just need time to learn. Like we're not all foreign policy experts.
Yeah.
Especially like, I follow a lot of influencers that are like fitness influencers. Now, some of them have military backgrounds.
Right.
So they can speak into these things with a deal of perspective, real world perspective. Some are just fitness instructors.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they've never seen a day of war in their life.
Right.
And they've never been to Afghanistan and they don't study Middle Eastern foreign policy.
Right.
You know, they're just fitness instructors. So you have to kind of sift through all of that stuff, go to sources that you trust and learn, you know, and give those people who don't have that experience the time to just learn.
Yeah.
And not be like, why are you not speaking out about this?
Right.
Because I don't know.
Right.
And that's where most people should be at. I don't know. I don't know. That should be the first reaction instead of like, screw Biden. I can't believe he botched this whole thing. Like, I think he did. But I also don't think we should have been in Afghanistan. So you have to give that to him and be like, well, at least we're out.
Yeah.
You know, did it look like Saigon? For sure. But like, there's all of these factors at play. Were we as stable as we were told we were in that region, or was this what's the right word? Imminent. I think that's the right word. Like, was this going to happen regardless?
Oh,
you know, or was it completely, you know, put on by our, you know, botched pullout?
Right.
You got to look at all of these things. I like to do a lot of learning.
That's good.
When it comes to all of these things, and I want to teach my kids to do a lot of learning when it comes to all these things, because we'll be more educated and smarter when another Afghanistan scenario comes up in the future.
Right.
And then we will maybe be able to speak out more on those things.
Right.
From an informed, learned perspective.
Because we know we understand what happened last time. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's cool. I like that. I like that the homeschooling is kind of giving history from different sides and really having them think critically about those things and navigate history in that way. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I love the control we have over the information coming to our kids. I also just love the ability for us to be a part of it. Yeah. Because like, there is this dynamic in public school, because I've been in public school. You went through public school, of like us, you know, us and them when it comes to like student teacher. Yeah. There's not a lot of journeying together. Right.
Which wouldn't even be a big deal if like your parents were like learning with you, because then you could bring it home and like talk about it. But like,
but that doesn't happen.
That doesn't happen. And like, not that's not the fault of parents at all, because how would you, especially if you're working a job and everything, how would you know? But like, I like how I can engage them in everyday life. Like even after the schooling is done, I can be like, hey, look, like,
you know what you're learning.
Yeah. I can be like, I can tie in everything into our life and be like, this is how this applies. Or look, we read about that. Or whatever it is, we can tie it in and we can really make it like, this is real. Like, this is important. Yeah. Like, what we're learning is what we need to know to live our lives. And it's fun and it's cool and it's, important for us. It's real.
It's real.
Yeah. And it's not just like, this is what you do in school and you get good grades and then you do what you want when you leave. Yeah. Like this is part of your life.
Grades, especially right now, I mean, because they're so young, grades aren't really a factor. Yeah. I mean, like eventually we'll have tests and eventually they'll have grades from that. But like, they're not coming home to bring you a report card. Yeah. Because you're seeing what they're getting on every single thing. Every single test that they take, every single project that they make, you know, like.
And it's not as important anymore. Like, I feel like grades, when I was a kid, grades was like, look what I did to for my parents. Like, I'm doing good. It's almost like a little status thing. Whereas now, as being the teacher and teaching my kids, I'm like, I actually don't really care what their grades are necessarily. Right. Like, if I know they're learning, are they learning? Are they mastering what they need to master? Yeah. Are they enjoying it? Are they becoming well-developed, social, civilized beings? Right. And if that's the case, then I think we're doing pretty good. Yeah. You know? So I feel like that will be good too. And that will kind of be, I feel like that will be a weight off of them that maybe they'll never even know that other people had, but that grades won't be like a big thing for them.
Well, it's definitely something that I had to learn when I went back to, so I went to public school, kindergarten through first grade. And then I was homeschooled second grade through eighth grade. And then I went back to public school for high school.
Yeah.
So I don't really remember first grade that much. Yeah. But when I went back to public school in high school, it's interesting how your mindset changes from learning to getting the grade or
getting by.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely was some of that, but even if you were trying to do it well and you weren't just trying to get by, you still were just trying to get the grade, like you said. Like you were still just trying to get the certain scores on tests. You were trying to get certain grades on essays, and it's a different mindset, and it causes you not to learn.
Yeah.
I like one of the things that was my major emphasis and why I wanted to homeschool our kids was the fact that I don't remember anything from high school.
Yeah.
And that's sad to me.
That's really sad.
Because I had good teachers, very good teachers in English and history, a couple good teachers in math, very good teachers. But the way the schooling is set up, it's not for my learning style.
Yeah.
I'm a more active learner.
Yeah.
I can't sit in a desk and learn effectively. And it's just set up to memorize for the test. And I have a good memory, but I never spent a lot of time understanding the concept.
Yeah.
So really, because I think even in history, I was straight A's in history, because I loved it.
Right.
And I remember some of it, but some of it's from just watching History Channel all the time.
Yeah.
I don't actually remember a lot of the stuff we did in class.
Yeah.
And I knew enough from outside of class that it could help me in my memorization of dates and parts of history for the tests.
Yeah.
But when you just memorize for a test, there's no retention.
Yeah, and then there's studies on that too.
Yeah.
That it's just gone. It was in short term and now it's gone.
Yeah, and I don't like that. I don't like that learning style, and I just don't want to put my kids through that.
Yeah.
Because I want them to understand things. I want them to know and comprehend.
Right. And I feel like you have a good attitude towards learning, and that's why you're a lifelong learner because of your homeschooling past. I am learning now as an adult that learning is fun and that I can learn and just kind of how that all works. Whereas in school, I got good grades, but it was that kind of memorize it, short-term memory, get the grade. Okay, we'll forget it all so that I can put more in my brain for the next test,
right.
And yeah, and I'm sure if I had a different attitude in school, maybe that would have been different. Maybe it's just part of my personality, but like you said, it is kind of set up like that because that is what works best in a classroom full of kids. Is you teach them the material, and then in order to figure out where they're at, because there's so many of them, then you just take a test, and then you have numbers.
And that definitely is a part of it.
Yeah,
there's just so many.
There's
so many kids.
You couldn't
so
actually
many people.
expect a teacher to teach all of those kids and have them learn effectively to the best of their ability. You can't ask that of a teacher.
No, you can't. You can't. And I totally understand that. It stinks that charter schools and private schools and different things of that nature aren't more accessible to the public because of public schools and mostly school unions.
Yeah.
There I have a even bigger issue.
Yeah.
Because the school unions right now are just preventing you have to go through the public school system and their unions to get approval to even begin the process of opening a charter school or opening a private institution.
Which is kind of crazy.
It's kind of crazy, right? That you have to go through the public school.
Yeah.
Like not just
isn't that the whole point?
Not just the government.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, good on the public schools for working that out.
Yeah.
You know, with the state. But yeah, it's sad because there's no competition.
Mm-hmm.
There's no schools that are built for different learning styles.
Yeah.
So if a parent's like, my kid just doesn't function well in this school because of this learning style, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
There's this other school that we could recommend for your child.
That would be awesome.
It's like Macy's sending people to Gimbals.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, I would have so much more respect and love for public schools if they cared more about children's education.
Right.
If they cared more about children in general, and we could get into that later, but it bothers me that like learning styles, which you're in a public school institution, like I know, or a learning institution, like I know that the teachers in college went through the different ways in which children and young adults or whatever learn.
Yes.
But then it's not utilized.
Yeah. Okay.
Our kid needs to go pee-pee.
I'll turn the light on. Oh boy.
I'll just talk to people for a moment. How are you? Our kid needs to go pee-pee and he needs the light on. We did just get ready for bed. But yeah.
That's how it goes.
And we're back.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not a fan of the fact that learning styles aren't prioritized for our children.
Yeah.
Who learn differently.
Yeah.
And we have even these assessments that are done in the early stages, in the early learning of our kids to kind of gauge this type of information, but then it's not effectively utilized throughout their education.
That's only helpful if like the teacher can somehow have enough time to like, you know, help that child in that way. And then when that child gets older to be able to verbally like tell people I learned better this way, and then they know that and they can but still I
just don't know, because like some children can get like IEPs for, you know, special like help with learning, but it sometimes it's just the style. Like it's not that they are slow or they're just not being taught effectively.
And it's so hard too, because, you know, teachers, at least from the way it sounds, are like weighed down with all of this like stuff that they need to do for their, I guess it's for the state and for the school, like to kind of, they have to meet standards. And so if they came in with a love of teaching children, it's probably quickly stripped away with like an exhaustion of like, okay, how do I just get through all of this work and teach the kids at the same time? You know, like it's probably, but well, so I'm very thankful that we can homeschool and,
No, I think teachers are great. I think most care about children. I think most care about education. Most care about the subjects that they're teaching. But I just look at the landscape of schools in general, public school systems, especially state-funded schools, and I don't know if they care about kids. I don't know if they care about our children.
Well, yeah.
Like I look at what they did in Oregon recently, and this is critical thinking inspired, but removing standards.
Oh yeah.
For children. What?
Yeah. For high school. Yeah.
Right. Because some children may struggle. And then if you want to bring in the racist elements of that, of certain demographic backgrounds or racial backgrounds,
which is racist,
might
which is
struggle
actually racist.
Instead of providing more assistance to them,
instead of being like,
figuring out why they're not learning effectively,
right?
Because we're just going to remove the standards that we hold those privileged people that are learning effectively. We're not going to hold these students to that same standard. We're just going to remove the standards. No standards. Which, I'm sorry, is going to cause less learning to take place.
Yeah.
For those children.
It's like
and
common sense.
For the children that were learning effectively, because now there's no standards.
Right.
And if you have nothing to aspire to, you will you will rise to the level of your what is the phrase of your expectations, or what you'll and if they're zilch, you're going nowhere.
You're preparing children to fail in life. They might graduate, but they're gonna fail in life until they get help and learn.
Like you don't want to like say it's malicious. You just want to you hope for ignorance. But like something like that
that's pretty
is horrific.
That's horrific
for our kids. Now I'm not in Oregon. It's not affecting my life directly, and my kids are homeschooled. But I see stuff like that, and like my heart breaks for the children that are going to have to go through a standardless institution
like
of learning.
Yeah,
you're not even an institution anymore because there's no standards.
Yeah.
What do you want for their lives?
Yeah.
Apparently nothing.
Right. Which is really sad.
And that's where it just stuff like that irks me. Teachers unions pushing for kids to be masked.
Oh yeah.
In school.
I don't know what that is about. Like
I don't know either.
I don't know what that's about because
they would say it's about the teachers. So having the kids masked will help protect the teachers from best case scenario, prolonged exposure for kids that are infected with the virus from infecting their teachers. The problem is most of the teachers are vaccinated.
Yeah. And if you do the whole distancing thing.
And if they're not, they've chosen
not
not be vaccinated.
Yeah.
So why are the kids still wearing masks?
And yeah.
And
I feel like if the kid or the parent desires that for their child, then they should be able to do that. But if they don't, then they shouldn't have to, especially because that would be annoying even for an adult to sit and learn all day in a classroom with like something on your face that's like bothering you.
Yeah.
Like that.
The kids have done it before. They did it last year, but the fact that we're bringing it back again after the vaccine has had plenty of time to spread to every single person that wants it. I mean, I can't pass a pharmacy without seeing free vaccines available. That's not all over the world that it's like that.
Yeah.
Like we're very blessed in that way that vaccines are available everywhere.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's awesome. And everybody that has needed it or wanted it has gotten it.
Right.
So what are we doing?
Yeah.
We know that COVID is the second least likely thing to kill children.
Yeah.
Out of a list of diseases and, potential things that kill children on a yearly basis.
Yeah.
It's like second lowest on the list.
Oh, wow.
But we play these games.
Yeah.
And my question to parents that have their kids in public schools is like, are you really going to allow the government to play these games with your children?
Right.
Like, it's hard for me to see because like my children aren't in this.
Right.
They're not wearing a mask inside our home.
Yeah.
But my heart breaks for the children that are going to have to go to school again.
Yeah.
With a mask on.
Yeah.
And I maybe we've had some podcasts about this in the past, but like I think I've been pretty fair when it comes to masks in general. Like I wore my mask when I needed to wear my mask. I didn't make a fuss about it. I didn't go into places that said wear a mask and not wear it. Like, I was pretty reasonable this whole time because I want to keep people comfortable.
Right.
I don't care. I've never been afraid of COVID.
Yeah.
I was afraid of it for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like everyone else. And then when I learned that I'm going to be fine.
Yeah.
I stopped.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of it.
Yeah.
But I still wore it to make other people feel comfortable. And I thought that was reasonable.
Right.
This is not reasonable.
Yeah.
This is an attack. This is an attack on our kids. And if people don't see it in that way, you're blind.
Yeah.
You are blind. I mean, you can make the argument that public school is an institution to teach your kids submit to the government.
That's what, yeah.
I mean, like, just think about it. Okay, I want you to sit in a classroom for an entire day as we tell you what to think and what to know and how to think. And then you're going to go to an office space where you're going to sit and you're going to be told how to work and what work to do.
Right.
And when you can go home and woo.
Yeah.
I mean, you could get real deep into this stuff. And I'm not going down that path right now. But what I'm saying is, like, I see this as a control mechanism and political theater.
Yeah.
And the only way that this is going to get turned around is if parents come out and say no.
Right.
And they are.
There
are a lot of parents that are coming out, but it needs to be more.
Yeah.
It needs to be all of us saying no.
Right.
Because
no against everything.
If everyone says no, they can't send all of your kids home. Right. They need your kids for funding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Know that.
Right.
They need your kids to get funded by the state.
Yeah.
And the state needs your kids there to be funded by the federal government. It's all about the money, guys.
Right.
It's all about the money.
And not just saying no against the masks, but I can't remember what state it was, but I know one mom was kind of pushing to learn more about what her children were learning in the classroom. And she wanted to know, like, she wanted some emails from like school board members and teachers because she just wanted to know. Like, she wasn't attacking. She just wanted to know.
What are you teaching?
Because she heard some, I don't know how she heard this, but she heard that they might be teaching certain things that she didn't agree with.
Maybe her kid came home and said, hey, what do you think about this?
Right. And she wanted to know, like, what are you teaching? And they didn't want to tell her. Now, I'm not saying that's every school.
Right.
But I'm like,
that's terrifying.
If you want to know something or you disagree with something, you need to make, like, your voice heard.
Right.
And yeah, especially, and just stand up for that, because like some people, we're so blessed that we can homeschool, but like some people can't. Like some people financially, they can't do that. And
they can't do it. And some people can financially do it, but don't understand the value yet. Yeah. They don't understand what the public school systems are doing with your kids, and they don't care. And that, I'm sorry, guys, and don't take this the wrong way, but that is neglect. It is your responsibility to know what your kids are learning.
Yeah.
It is your responsibility to make sure your kids are healthy.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, masks may have effectiveness in some capacity, but a child who has zero chance, not zero, almost a 0% chance of dying from COVID-19 has more likelihood to contract other diseases and other viruses and bacteria and all the nastiness that your kids are capable of coming out of their mouth and from other kids' mouths.
Oh, yeah.
More chance of getting sick from wearing that cloth over their face for 8 hours a day. That you need to care about your kids' health. You need to care about their cognitive development.
Right.
When they have to not be able to see their teacher's mouth moving and they can't see their...
Wait, our teachers have to wear them too?
I don't know. I would imagine so, because
I didn't even think about that. That would be really hard.
Well, I'm pretty sure because, yeah, it wouldn't make sense for the teachers to not wear it and the kids have to.
That would be rough. I would struggle with that.
But that's what, like,
because I even now I look at people's lips sometimes because, like, if they talk too fast, maybe I am slow, but like I'm like I look at their lips to know like exactly what they're saying.
Yeah,
that would be rough. Sorry, I didn't. No, I was only thinking about the kids.
But there is cognitive things going on that are influenced by the fact that facial expressions can't be read. Mm-hmm. And these kids are in developmental periods, especially if you're toddlers, if you have elementary school children, mm-hmm. they need that cognitive development as much as the, learning that they're doing in the education. Cognitive, social development, emotional development. If they can't read emotions well, mm-hmm. they're going to struggle to know situational awareness when it comes to things, because they're just not going to have those emotional skills.
Yeah, they're not. They're still
developed in these stages.
Yeah, they're still learning how to navigate relationships and emotions, and
you could say, oh well, they don't wear masks at home. Yeah, but they're only home for how many hours a day? Mm-hmm. And then they sleep.
Yeah.
And then they're back at school for the majority of the day, not getting all of these developmental practices and skills. And I just think we need to care more about our kids. And again, I'm not speaking from someone that has kids going to public school. So like, maybe you're like, screw you, you don't understand. And that's fine. That's fine. But maybe do a little self-reflection.
Yeah.
If you are thinking that about me, maybe say, why am I thinking that way? Am I scared, or am I just lazy and I don't want to have confrontation?
Mm-hmm.
And to that I say, if someone was going to kidnap your kid, if someone was going to come and hurt your kid, if a car was coming to hit your kid, you'd do something about it.
Right.
And right now the school system is doing something to your children.
Right.
And it's time to say no.
Right.
It's time to say, my kid's about to get hurt by this.
Right.
You will not hurt my kid.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's as simple as
for political reasons, which it seems like that's the real, like, if we're going to get honest here, it seems like that's the real reason. Like, we've got a lot of political stuff going on in our schools. Well,
it is political,
which is not cool.
Right.
Which is not cool to just kind of throw them around for a political benefit.
Right.
But
and you're just getting shady science. Mm-hmm. And by shady science, I just mean like, we're not being told the science.
Yeah.
We're being told what to do because science.
Right.
And you're like, who's science?
Right.
What?
And
what science?
Where is all of the science?
Right.
That's really what it is.
Because we do have the science available to us from studies, from the CDC website, from the World Health Organization. Right. And you can make the assumptions that I have been making without being a scientist.
Right.
That I don't have to fear for my kids whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
This whole child masking thing is just, I don't know. It's disgusting to me. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're very thankful.
For that regard too. But yeah, step up, people. Step up. Step out. Get out. Get to the school board meetings. I get it. I would be lazy too. I don't want to go to that. It's boring.
Oh yeah.
It's so boring.
But the more voices that are heard, the more I think it would change things.
It would for sure change things.
Yeah.
People forget that this is a country by the people for the people.
Yeah.
And I know it seems very authoritarian and totalitarian right now in terms of just, vaccine passports and mandates and all of these things. But what you have to understand is mandate is not law.
Mm-hmm.
So laws aren't passing to force you to do things, because honestly, these laws wouldn't be able to go through because they're unconstitutional.
Yeah.
Because like the point of our Constitution is that our rights are inalienable. So like these laws would have to hold up against the amendments.
Yeah.
That give us inalienable rights, which means that like those rights were given by God. They weren't given by the government, because in other countries like the UK, I just heard today someone talking about the differences. Like the UK gave the people the rights that they have.
Oh,
so the people,
that is a huge difference.
Well, the people aren't as outraged when the government takes back some rights.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Even just today, I was like, I am not going to give up my freedoms without a fight. Like we have freedoms, right, in this country that we're very blessed to have. And like, they will be taken again and more and more and more if we let our hands be open and give them out.
Right.
Like we have to like hold our fists closed and be like, no, no, not without a fight. And yeah, that's how I feel now. Yeah. I'm like,
well, fear and panic and you know, I mean, I forget who said this, but like, never let a good disaster go to waste.
What does that mean?
Like, that means like,
that sounds bad. That sounds like someone's going to exploit you in this situation.
Well, yeah. I'm not saying it for our end. I'm saying the government will never let a bad disaster go to waste. They will always use 9/11 to enact the Patriot Act.
Yeah.
Which allowed for government supervision over your emails, your text messages, your phone calls, your, you know, business interactions, whatever they need to protect you.
Yeah.
And we were like, yeah, terrorism, bad. A lot of people just died.
Go ahead.
Take my freedom.
Yeah.
And it's a slippery slope.
Yep.
You know, a lot of people are kind of like, you know, we don't want to get conspiratorial and go crazy like that, but it's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
It's a slippery slope.
It's sad to think. It's sad to think, but this is true, that people, and government is made up of people. People will exploit your situation. There's people out there that will do that. Not everyone, but there's people that will do that, like in your everyday life and in the government. Like, I think we forget that. I think we kind of, or maybe I should just speak for myself, but I think I forget that sometimes. You think that the government is just like always good because they're the government and they're in control and they know their stuff.
Yeah.
And so you just
Such a funny statement.
You just think that like, well, I feel like that's how we've been responding in this country for the past few years. We just kind of like,
no, it is.
The government knows what's best. Yeah. So we should let the experts do what they do best, when we're forgetting that they're just made up of you and me and they can exploit us.
Yeah.
And like, yeah.
Well, we were scared. We were like, oh my gosh, there's a pandemic and they're the only ones that know about it.
Yeah.
Like people are dying, but we're like, what's going on? And you look to the government because don't get me wrong. Like we do pay tax dollars for them to form organizations to learn about these things. So we are supposed to look to them because we paid them to do this job.
Yeah.
But like you said, the problem is you have like Donald Trump. Like, what do we do, Donald? Like, he's a businessman. Yeah. He's not a virologist.
Yeah.
You know, and he brought like a team of people around him. Not great people, as we're finding out. But like, we have to take the government with a grain of salt, I guess, is like the only way to say it. That they're you and me.
Yeah.
They're humans. They're not professional figure-outers.
Right.
You know,
they're not perfect decision makers.
No. And they're figuring this out as quickly as we are in some cases.
Right.
They're making decisions. Sadly, the problem with government is that they're making decisions based on politics.
Yeah.
And your life is not a political move. Your life is a decision that should be made. You know, we should look at the efficacy of things and make decisions about it, not how is this going to look?
Right. Yeah.
And then you have so many other things in play, usually that you can always trace back to money.
Yeah, somehow we've lost, and because I haven't, like, I'm still not really into politics, but I definitely keep up now with what's going on in the world. But
that's good. That's enough. That's enough.
It's enough. But I feel like we've lost, and I don't know if we ever had this because I wasn't paying attention before, but like, I feel like we don't have this like information given to us by our government, who we pay to find out these things.
Yeah.
But like all the information, and for them to say, and even for them to give opinions, that's fine. But to be like, here's the information, Americans, people who we've trained up in our public schools, hopefully well enough to make a well decision about the information we're giving you so that we can decide and be free people to decide. But I feel like that doesn't happen anymore. They're just like, this is what we found and this is what you should do.
Right.
And if you don't, we are going to hate on you.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty much how it is now. Like, there's no like respecting, there's no opening up, like giving an invitation. Like, this is what's happening. These are like, you know, some of your choices. And this is what we think is best. And here it is.
Yeah.
And then respecting their independence and their decision making. But yeah. I don't know if that was that ever a thing? I don't know.
I don't know if it ever was. I don't know what like, you can always look at the time you're living through and be like, this is the worst.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure there was worse times. I'm sure the Revolutionary period was not great.
No.
I'm sure the Civil War was awful.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure, you know, World War II was terrible. I mean, we were rationing tires and gas and just all kinds of stuff. Like,
yeah, that would have been.
You can always look at your time and find the worst in it.
Right.
You know, but there's some stuff that we should be afraid of, and all of the freedoms that have been lost throughout the existence of our country, which isn't that long, has never been given back to us.
Yeah.
And that's what you should be most afraid of, because the government will never give back the freedoms that it takes away from you. It's just not in their nature.
No, like they're not going to give,
because they're gaining power over you. They're gaining power over you, and they might not voice it in that way. They might voice it that they have the greater ability to help you with this power than you would have to help yourself. You know, and I'm making it sound very nefarious and all that type of stuff, but like, I think if you were in government, if you were a politician, maybe you'd think this way. Okay. And maybe, you know, maybe this would make sense to you.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make sense, and it's a terrible idea, because you always have way better ability to think for yourself, to do for yourself, to help yourself.
Yeah.
But what were you going to say?
This is just a funny, lighthearted thing that applies to our conversation. So I've been watching the Star Wars like animated shows with our kids.
Yeah.
And like, it's kind of creepy and people are going to think I'm crazy, but whenever like the New Republic or
the Empire
like speaks, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is familiar. like the Empire will be like, now there is a now I'm gonna forget what's the word when you have to be inside at a certain time?
Curfew.
A curfew. They're like, we're installing a curfew, and this is for your safety, and that's like what they're saying in the show, right? And I'm like, what is happening? And it's just kind of funny, kind of not, but yeah. I'm like, this is weird.
Yeah, we've had curfews. There was curfews during COVID.
Yeah. No, I know. For our safety, it's like this woman out speaking to everyone.
COVID comes out at night. After 10 p.m., COVID comes out.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's coming.
Sneaking in the shadows.
He's sneaking. He's going to get you.
He's going to find you if you have your mask off. Better watch out.
He's looking for those unvaccinated people. Those anti-maskers that are out after 10. COVID comes out to play.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of parallels that are extremely freaky. I mean, you can go back to I made those comparisons just watching through the prequels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, watching those. Star Wars is way, especially the animated series, yeah, where you get really in detail with sort of the slow, like Clone Wars series, the slow kind of collapse of the Republic.
Yeah, well, that's really
and just the gaining of different powers by Palpatine at that time, you know, Chancellor Palpatine at that time, and like it's revealing.
That's a little freaky to me.
And shout out Dave Filoni, because you are, in the vein of George Lucas, just a master at really bringing in real world things, you know, and I don't, they're not making a political point.
No.
But they're teaching, especially kids who are watching this animated series and adults like me, they're teaching real world scenarios, because these are always the way that power is gained.
Yeah.
And empires are born.
And the very, I don't know if vague's the right word, but like vague turnover, you know, when the Republic, they're like, the war's over. And you're like, oh, that's a good thing, right? And you're like, but wait.
Hitler was voted in.
And yeah, but it's
but think about that.
Yeah.
He was, as I'm doing this, he was voted in. So like a democratic process took place. Like he was the National Socialist Party.
Yeah.
And they had multiple parties in Germany, and his party won, and he was voted into his position.
Yeah.
And then through different forces and events and things of that nature, slowly moved into the position that he ultimately found himself in, which is king, emperor, dictator, whatever you want to call him.
But that because I'm watching them with you, and that was creepy to me too. I was like, oh, that's like so easy how we're able to be deceived. Just any nation, not just ours, but like that is kind of the way history goes.
Yeah.
Is in those shows and in those movies.
Maybe we can talk about it another time, but like that vagueness is interesting, right?
Yeah.
How like they were the Republic, and then they became the Empire through declaration. Palpatine's like, because of all this, the war's over. To maintain peace in the galaxy, we're going to form an empire. It's just going to be better this way. He didn't really ask anybody.
Yeah.
Because he had already gained power over the courts. He gained power over the military. He gained power over all of these things that were given to him in a time of war, in a time of conflict.
More power given.
In a time of struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then once he had the power over all of these institutions, you can do what you want.
Then you dominate.
You dominate.
Yeah.
And that vagueness. I do like the news series that came out with the Bad Batch.
Yeah.
Because it's just showing like what happens right after the Empire's created.
Right.
And like all of the vagary that you talk about is like the people don't really know, like, okay, you're an empire, like are we still doing business together? Like are we still trading? Are my people still protected by you? Because they were by the Republic.
Right.
Oh, yeah. They're still protected. Now we're going to own you. You know, we're going to make some of your people slaves.
Right.
We're going to like make sure that you give us all your weapons.
Right.
So you can't fight back against us if you don't like our policies.
Yeah.
You know, just stuff like that is so good on their part. And I give all the credit to Dave Filoni, not Disney. Because Dave Filoni is a master. But like, yeah, it's good. It's good. I'm glad my kids are watching it because again, they're going to reference these types of things when they see it in the real world.
Yeah.
Or when they read about it in history and be like, oh, that's just like
Right.
Star Wars.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And making these comparisons and comprehending these really deep and profound scenarios and how they take place. And it's good.
Yeah.
It's good. But all right, well, let's wrap it up here. Before we go, I just want to say, if you're a parent out there listening to this and your kid does go to public school, just check in. Check in. Even if you don't want to go to a school board meeting, even if you don't want to write the school or the school board or your union, school union or whatever, check in with your kid, at the very least. Find out what they're doing. Find out how they're struggling. Because maybe that'll inspire you to do a little more. I don't know. That's my goal, is that you really get involved. But it matters most how your kid's doing. So ask them. Ask them how they're doing with stuff. Ask them how they're doing with masks on. Are you struggling? Are you doing okay? Because that's what matters most, is our kids. It's always what mattered most, and it gets lost in politics and ideology and all things that don't care about people that much. Yeah. So before you go, make sure that you, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you like this, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And then listeners, make sure you subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening. And we'll catch you on the next episode. We're going to have Just Breathing with Laud and Lungs on Friday, so check that out. And we'll see you next Monday for another home edition. All right, guys. Love you. Bye.